I will do that. Good evening once again, everyone, and I hope you've all had a lovely day. Okay, I'll be sharing my screen now. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Um, okay. So last week, I think I always have a lot to say, but I think I'll keep it short today. Last time we met on Saturday, we discussed the create detection and perform investigation using Microsoft Sentinel. We're not able to cover all of the modules here, and the agreement was for you to read the rest, and if there are any specific question that you would like to clarify, we'll probably quickly discuss that before we go into before we go into the last module, which is configure your Microsoft Sentinel environment. So my first question is to ask if anyone has any question, first of all, before we continue into the last module. Any question from anyone? Okay, I
Good
think,
evening.
yeah, hi, Usman.
Good evening.
Yeah,
Mine is not a question, but I don't know how I will present it so that it won't look more sentimental. This
no,
is my
fine.
own, and this is my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I so in the last few, let me say maybe 2 or 3 weeks now, I've been extremely busy on a personal level.
okay.
So, and I think so it's taking so much time to even I'm trying to start back from where we are started watching the video, reading back. You give us a lot of tasks that you see read through some of the necessary parts. So that's what I have been doing. So I've not been able to. So I would suggest and keep it short that maybe after this class is concluded, we can
Yeah.
just have maybe 2 or 3 sessions to discuss about what we have encountered, what might be a challenge or questions, so that you can I am appealing to your strength if it's something you can consider. But it's my personal opinion anyway. So good. Thank you.
Okay, to have some other session after today. Usman, is that what you're asking?
Yes, maybe after 2 weeks, this can just be maybe just it cannot be a class. It can just be a class, maybe just 2 hours, 3 hours, a normal class to address some of the questions that any one of us might have encountered, not my own only. If you
Yeah.
understand my point.
Okay. I wish to do that, but I think we need to draw draw a close also today. Because I have some other plans starting from next week, so I'm not sure I'll be able to do that. That said, if anyone has any question, I believe Wally is probably still going to leave the chat open for some time. You can always ask your question directly on the chat, and I'll try as much as possible to clarify anything that you need. And if you need support relating to this course, you can always ask a question there. I'll try as much as possible to answer, but I'm not sure I'll be scheduling any other. I'm not sure I'll be scheduling any other meeting or engagement after this on SC-200. So we have to bring it to a close. But if anyone has any question that they want to ask, I mean, feel free to reach out. Okay, so we can, yeah, please go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yes, please. I just want to ask that is it can we reach out to you personally if it's not just a question or a about an advice or something? Can we reach out to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, sure, feel free. I think the whole essence of this is, I mean, to get more people into the field, have more colleagues, if I can say it that way. So if you and okay, this even me, right? If I'm moving into a new territory and I have things that I don't understand, I don't shy away from reaching out to people, whether known or unknown, that I see are thriving in that area and are able to help me. So feel free as much as possible to also reach out if there is anything that you need. I'm more than happy to help if it's something I have within my power to do.
All right, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. So in the absence of none, I think we can start. So this is our concluding module, and it's about performing threat hunting in Microsoft Sentinel. It's focused, I think we have about just four subsection and play threat hunting concepts in Microsoft Sentinel. Um, Threat hunting with Microsoft Sentinel, using search jobs in Microsoft Sentinel, and hunting for threats using Notebook in Microsoft Sentinel. So we start with the first one. And I'll use this also to talk about the MITRE attack. And I think a lot of time, I think consistently over the course of this module, we've talked about MITRE framework. I think we'll use this opportunity to talk about the MITRE attack. So the learning objective for this module is for us to be able to understand the hunting concept with Sentinel and to be able to do hunting hypothesis for use with Microsoft Sentinel, basically. Understanding cyber threats hunts. Threat hunting, I mean, hunting can mean different things for different people. But for most, I mean, regarding to cybersecurity and for cybersecurity professionals, hunting will mean looking for threats, searching for threats, finding threats, and mitigating threats within your environment. If you have threats that have not been detected, basically that has materialized in your environment, finding them out is what is called a threat hunting. Some people would also call that a triage, basically looking around perimeter to actually box in a threat that you have, a potential threat you have in your environment. So basically, there are instances where you may, I think we've talked in terms of things like IOC earlier, indication of compromise, which is always a reflection, or let me just say an artifact that is left behind when your organization or your system has been exploited. So basically, if you get an intelligence that there is someone that has been maybe you have an attacker within your sector that has been targeting an organization like yourself. And I recalled there was a time I've forgotten the details now, But I think around 2020, I think late 2020, there was one exchange vulnerability that allows remote threat actor to be able to drop a shell, more like a shell into on Exchange server, and they're able to compromise Exchange server, and through Exchange server, they're able to establish command and control the infrastructure. And for people who are familiar with Microsoft's Exchange server, you see that it's very tightly integrated into AD. In fact, Exchange server as a system can create as an authority to create users in the Active Directory. So if you have maybe an Exchange administrator creating a user through the Exchange, you will not see the administrator creating it. You actually see it being created as Exchange subsystem, Exchange trust subsystem, basically. So these remote attackers would drop a shell, and what Microsoft said was a lot of, I think we just woke up that following morning and that was the news making wave. And they didn't mention that a lot of these attackers are dropping shell into Exchange servers, and all the Exchange servers are vulnerable. So you then need to implement, I think some what was it called back then? I think it was just some IIS rule to actually block that attack. And Microsoft quickly also released a cumulative update to block it. And everybody, the idea was for everyone to assume that they have been breached. And everybody, what the intelligence was, check your system. If you can see a download of a file that has been named as this or as that, we have like 3 different file names, then just assume that you have been breached. That is the intelligence. Now, for you as a threat hunter, if you've been told you have a system like this and all of you have been informed to assume breach, and then you've been given an IOC or maybe an IP, for instance, IOC can be an IP, it could be a file hash, and it can even be a file name or a script name, just like the case was for Exchange server. Just assume that you have been breached. And yeah, I think I checked. I also look into some organizations that I assisted at that period also were also compromised and needed to take it out. But the first thing to even be sure whether you've been compromised or not is actually for you to be able to investigate first using the details and the information you have, to be sure that you have been you are not haunted, or I mean that you are not affected. And you see, it is possible to have a proactive hunting and a reactive hunting. In proactive hunting, you do an hunt for issues that have not been previously detected, for issues that have not been previously detected. If you don't have a known indicator, what are you hunting basically? You can hunt with hypotheses as well. Hypotheses are just a scenario that you made up basically, and it can start with operational intelligence and then the list of attacker tactics and method. So an hypothesis can, I mean, I'm trying to draw a line between proactive hunting and what is it called in reactive. In reactive, you could have an indicator of compromise and then you are delving further to actually understand what has happened and then be able to narrow down the threat and possibly stop the attack. In the case of proactive hunting, you've not been affected yet, but what you are doing is hunting based on hypothesis, just creating a scenario and trying to go for it. So a hypothesis can search for a specific technique, not an indicator like an IP. You're not searching for an indicator, but you can be searching for a specific technique. So if malicious activity is identified, you might have discovered the attacker earlier in the attack process before they have the opportunity to exfiltrate data. So routine tasks should okay, so just to process to on threat, the first thing is developing hypothesis, reviewing data, plan your hunt, execute your hunt, respond if there's anything to respond to, monitor, improve, and develop processes. So it's basically a circle. And now a lot of time when a lot of time, especially when you come into an environment where they've not taken security very seriously and you've been assigned to, I mean, you've been given the privilege of controlling the SOC or managing the security team there. One of the things that you have to do in that kind of environment that have been left unguarded for a very long time is actually to assume breach first. Now you assume breach, and then the next thing is what are the possible threats, what are the possible attack that, and then you probably want to prioritize what should have been covered or have not been covered. Based on that, you can develop hypothesis for that particular breach, and you can look at the TTP, the technique, the tactics, and the procedure for maybe any particular attack type based on that hypothesis. You can use that to develop your hypothesis, and based on that, you can review data, then plan how you want to execute a hunt. If for the scenario you've cooked up, if for the scenario you cooked up, there has been a breach, I mean, if that scenario has manifested, how do you tackle it basically to uncover it? So you execute your hunt, and then you plan your hunt, you execute it. And if in the case of executing your hunt, you discover something or what you have hypothesize actually happen to be true, then the next thing is for you to respond. Having responded to it, the next course of action for you will probably be to monitor and then to improve on what you have done, and then the cycle can continue with the next and next. And now in such an environment, threat hunting is an ongoing, is a continual process, and you always start at the top of a circle with an hypothesis. An hypothesis would always help you plan out what you are going to hunt for, which requires to understand where we are going to hunt and how we'll do it, basically. So because it's a routine task, having run the circle, one of the things you want to do is to set up monitoring and to improve detection capabilities. Everything done in threat hunting should be documented, obviously. And documentation for hunt should include what, how, why, input and output, how to replicate the hunt, and then the next step. And now, what are the ways for you to develop hypothesis? Hunting will always start with an hypothesis. Basically, even the reactive hunting sometimes is still based on hypothesis. If you look at it in a way, the fact that there's been some reported news going around, and then you've assumed that you may have been compromised. You have intelligence that for other organization compromised, there is always an IOC or maybe an IP address that is always associated with the attacker, communication with attacker IP address, or maybe a file hash, or maybe a file hash. Sorry. Maybe a file hash or maybe some other IOC basically, and then you assume that maybe you are affected and that's what you are working with, but not in all cases. So what makes a good hypothesis? Keep it achievable. Don't perform a hunt where you know you have no hope of finding results. It could be that you don't have the data available or have insufficient knowledge about the threat to understand how to find it, basically. So you should always set an, hypothesis is developing hypothesis is like making up a goal. So it should be achievable. Keep the scope narrow. You don't want to set up an hypothesis that all of your infrastructure have been compromised, and then you are hunting for compromise in all of your infrastructure. That's going to be wild. If I want to do a hunt, I must have a specific, what am I hunting for? If you look into the news currently, I think I'm just going to go over to maybe security security.microsoft.com, and these always have what's it called, intelligence. So these always have sorry, I'm actually looking for yep. So basically you always have the open source intelligence even available from maybe within the what is it called, within the defender for cloud, for instance. And you also have so many open source intelligence platform. I think what was that one called? It's some a rewarding feature or something feature. I've forgotten the name now. So you can use any one of them basically to know maybe threats that affect your environment. And when you see it, if I see that, okay, this is affecting my sector and I'm also preparing for it, one of the things I can do is, first of all, see all of the indications that all information available about the threats, and then narrow down the scope of infrastructure that it may affect, basically. And based on that, you can always define a scope, and you want to keep it time bound. What are you looking for? How do you look for it, basically, and when should you look for it? So you do all of those, and after you've done that, you can even leave your detection method on the system just for you to have some monitoring in place afterward. You want to keep it useful, and you want to keep it efficient, and you want to keep it related to the threat model that you are defending against. Now, if you want to prevent maybe an attack, one very good way of mitigating an attack is through a MITRE MITRE framework. So MITRE attack is and MITRE actually has a website that you can go to, and if you look at what's it called, this is what I was referring to, the kill chain earlier, where the kill chain is actually a military language. Normally, when military are going somewhere to actually execute a mission, you probably see that they hold a lot of session trying to gather information about their victim, and then they begin to do a lot of planning, right from how, for all of us, for some of us that watch American movie, you'll probably see them doing reconnaissance, getting information about the victim. After that, they begin to look at what are the resources that they need. After that, they begin, how do we plan what's it called? How do we get ourselves there Are we going to use plane? Are we going to go undersea? Are we going to use stealth drone or whatever? So they then begin to plan their access, how they get a foothold into their victims' territory. Then how do they execute their plans over there? If they need to maintain stealth, how do they do that? Their persistence. If they need to be able to take over certain maybe stronghold or enemy stronghold, how do they do that? Privilege escalation. So basically all of the things that you have here are military related, and then the person that actually coined this, it's more like an art of war when you are actually fighting threat actors basically. So this is the kill chain, and this kill chain, I mean, the MITRE framework also mirror the kill chain, and then it gives you the different techniques basically that attacker can use in each of the key stages of a kill chain. So basically, if you want to fight an attacker, it's just like I'm coming to let's say you have a terrorist that is going somewhere to bomb a place. If you want to neutralize that threat, you must be able to match the stage where you meet the terrorist. If the terrorist is still planning and is still in his country, and you know that they need to get to your they need to get to where they need to get to their final destination to be able to implement the attack. You don't want to stay at at the targeted victim location and be planning how basically you are going to apprehend them when they come. You want to ensure that you even prevent them from leaving where they are. And if they are already on the way, you have control to meet them on the way and stop them there. You want to take them away, far away from achieving their goal. So basically, in each of the techniques, if you understand the techniques, you probably also understand what you can do or what control you can put in place to actually ensure that they don't get far away. They don't even progress beyond the current state that the current stage they are, and that's the whole essence of the MITRE attack. So for a lot of threats, when Microsoft identify a threat in security, what's it called? When Microsoft identify a threat, most often they also always gives you more like a related MITRE attack that can actually help you in a way to it gives you a MITRE framework that you can see tools and TTP basically. So it gives you framework that you can also use from the MITRE attack that you can also use basically to actually respond to that incidents, to respond to the to respond to the incident, sorry, to respond to the incidents. So in Microsoft Sentinel, and that's not just Defender, that's also, I think, that's also for Sentinel as well. In Microsoft Sentinel, select the threat management section, then select MITRE attack. By default, active schedule query. So basically you can always go through it. This is just a way for you to actually get to MITRE. Is a way for you to get to MITRE. Sorry, it's a way for you to get to MITRE attack, basically. So when you're developing your threat hunting hypothesis, it's critical to understand the tactics, basically the why, the technique of how, and then the procedure. That is a TTP you are searching for. So the MITRE attack framework is used throughout the Microsoft Sentinel. You should use MITRE attack. You can find MITRE attack under threat management in Sentinel for you to view detection already active in your workspace and those already available for you to configure. So Sentinel also just gives you a framework basically. for you to be able to detect and also to what happened? Okay. For you to be able to detect and also to respond to potential threats that you may have in your environment. And if you look at this currently, you see that what you see here in terms of reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, and everything actually aligns very well with the MITRE attack framework that we currently have here. And you can actually have recommendation, and then you see some of, okay, if an attacker is going to infiltrate you, the first stage of every attack will always be reconnaissance, getting information about you. And how would they get information about you? These are techniques that they can use. Basically, fishing for information is one of those techniques. And basically, when they are doing that, you really want to put a detection in place just to ensure that if they try to, run a reconnaissance on you, basically, you are in the known, and that actually helps you. So here you have a proactive approach, thinking that, okay, any attacker that would infiltrate your environment will first have to run a reconnaissance. And what are the what's it called, possible techniques that they can use? You have some of them listed here, and then basically you can look at those techniques and then try to find a way to implement them. So currently you can see for the ones where you have one or two controls already in place, you see it as highlighted. If you don't have anything in place, you probably just have it in gray, so you may just need to look over them. Sorry, I think I've spent too much time over there. I think because of time, I'm not going to go over the exercise setup, basically. This is talking about using the resource. Again, I think I'm just going to what's it called? I'm just going to rely that we'll do the reading for this part also. So this is a module, just is giving a fictitious scenario. Imagining that you work with a mid-sized financial service company called Contoso Limited, based in London with a New York branch office. So Contoso use Microsoft 365, Entra ID protection, Defender for cloud apps, Defender for identity, Defender for endpoint, Defender for office, endpoint protection, and Azure information protection. So as part of the Security Operations Center team, you've been tasked with using Sentinel to identify security threats within Contoso Azure environment by the end of this module. So this is basically the exercise for you to use Microsoft Sentinel. And I'll actually recommend that maybe after this class, you all go over these tasks. It's a good one. So it's for you to use Microsoft Sentinel to identify security threats with Contoso Azure environment. Basically, I think the exercise is nothing short of the things that we have done in the past. The things that we have done in the past. So this is just to deploy the Azure Resource Management template for the exercise environment. So if you want to do the exercise, you can just click on the deploy the template to your environment. But be sure about this ties down everything we've been talking about Sentinel. So, but be sure that you still have credit left before you actually do this, because you can get billed. So basically, if you deploy the environment, you see that the first thing that you have to do is configuring connectors, and you are configuring connectors to all of these different services. I think I don't know if it was the last class or last Thursday, we actually spoke about how to configure connector for sorry, under data connector, how you can configure connector for different platform, so to say. So you can configure connector for different platform using the content hub you can install, and then you can configure basically. So if you have I think that exercise has need for configuring, is it? Yeah, so the exercise requiring collecting information and managing hunting for threats across this environment. If you want to be able to hunt for threats across this environment from your SIM Sentinel, basically, you need to ensure that first of all, Sentinel has a connector, and all of these different products, they are forwarding their logs into Sentinel. So it requires you to configure the Sentinel connector, and then you can then begin to explore creation and then the management of thread queries. So you can hunt by built-in queries. A lot of time, and I think like we saw for each of the connectors that we added, I think last week, we saw that for each one of them, you actually have some query that are part of it as, when you install the connector, you have some standard query which are part of it. And one of the things that you should also notice about those query is the fact that they've already implemented certain technique. If you look, for instance, T1496, if you go to MITRE and you search in the MITRE framework for that technique, basically you will find it. That was T uh, uh, um, Yeah, okay. This was T1496. Basically, if you search for it, you see it. If you search for this one, basically, you see it. So Microsoft has gone ahead to actually create some of the technique some for each of the connectors, some of the technique that maybe the attacker used to compromise, or that can give you an indication of a compromise on the platform that you have integrated. You have it there, and just because you have it as a by default, basically you have an easy means of quickly getting yourself up and running some of the queries, or probably scheduling them. So you can manage threads hunting by queries. You can hunt for threads by using the MITRE attack framework, and you can select any tactics filters the available query for the selected tactics. The following. So basically, I don't want to go through this again, but because I think I paraphrased it earlier. So you have, this just explain the key stages of a key chain, basically, which is the reconnaissance is always when you are trying to find information about the victim. So the adversary uses reconnaissance to find. If you want to, it's not possible to launch attack on someone that you don't even know exists. You must have information about the victim first, and then resource the development. So basically, the attackers then begin to establish resources, putting resources together to support their operation. You have the initial access where they make the first entry, gain entry into network or maybe a host by exploiting configuration weakness, vulnerabilities, vulnerabilities, or even users. Execution, that's where they begin to run their code or probably planting themselves, gaining foothold within the victim's network, maintaining stealth, persistence. They are maintaining access to the target system, even if the system reboots or even if the system is shut down. So long it comes back up, they can always still maintain access. So that's persistence. Things like command and control always fall under that persistence. You have the privilege escalation. A lot of time when an attacker gain access to a victim's environment, the first thing they always gain access to are not usually very privileged. It could be a end user laptop, but they always want to go for the jewel of the kingdom, where they can inflict the most damage. And that is where the privilege escalation always comes in. If they log on, maybe they were able to gain access, maybe the initial access they have was to the, let's just say, front desk officers system. The front desk officer or maybe even a business development manager may not even have sensitive information or have access to systems that are critical to the business. What the attacker may do may be to just persist on that initial system that they've gained access to and then begin to find maybe details of administrator accounts that has access to maybe um, that has access to maybe higher class of systems or even the infrastructure. So if they're able to do things like maybe credential dumping, and then they're able to extract the password or the hash of maybe an administrator account that has already logged onto that system before, it's possible for them to use the password hash. If there are no proper detection or maybe proper armoring in place, they can use that hash to connect to maybe things like the domain controller, and then from there be able to control the whole infrastructure or even create an account for themselves that they can always use later to that they can always use later. So you have the privilege escalation, and then you have the defense evasion. A lot of time when people do things, when an attacker comes and they've done something, one of the things that they want to do is not to leave mess everywhere, because leaving mess everywhere makes them easily detectable. So they cover their track. That's the defense evasion. You have the credential access. You have discovery, lateral movement, collection, command and control, exfiltration. You just have different key stages. And also you can create a custom query. We also spoke about query. We also spoke about query the last time, and how you can also create a query. Basically, you see that there are many queries here that are here by default, but it's also possible for you to run a query. If you know what you're looking for, basically, you can give your query a name, put a description like it's the best practice, and then you can write your query. Basically, if you have a particular table you are interested in, you can write your query, and you can write your query, you can relay your query to any method that you are interested in or trying to implement. And based on that, you can just create it. So anybody that looks at it later know exactly which the reason why which tactics you are trying to detect based on the query that you have selected. I think we talk about this GitHub also on Saturday, that Microsoft Sentinel repository on GitHub has a lot of things. You have out of the box detection, you have exploration queries, you have hunting queries, you have workbook, playbook, and all. And incidentally, I still have it open basically. So depending on what you're looking for, you have maybe configuration ideas in terms of data connector. You have queries also that you can use for some specific application here. If you are doing hunting as well, you just have many things, hunting workbooks, playbooks, many things that you can do that. So if you are looking for something and then you are not sure, this is your first place to go to see if there's anything or that gives you like a launching pad. So you always have it here and you also always see it there basically. So if you run a query and your query is fine or you make a detection, one of the things that you can do just for you to be able to continue from where you are if you go away and come back basically is to bookmark, hunt by using bookmark. So so basically bookmark allow you to preserve your queries that you run along with the results. So if you bookmark it and you come back to it, you can always see the queries itself and also the results if you have to go away and come back. So basically, if you've written a query, you run the query, and then you want to be able to come back to it later, both the query and the results, then you can simply just go ahead and bookmark it. So you can create from rule from alert, you can always generate an incident, but also you can also generate an incident from a bookmark as well. A while back while we were talking about I think that was when we had the introduction to KQL. We talk about the attack lifetime. We talk about timeline, sorry, attack timeline. Another thing like a timeline is the live stream, observing threats over time with a live stream. So you can use live stream to test queries against live events as they occur. So live stream provides interactive session that can notify you when Microsoft Sentinel finds matching events for your query. Live stream is always based on query. Typically use the query to narrow down streaming log events. So only the events that are related to your threat hunting efforts would appear. So I'll still recommend that we go over this later, and this is just the exercise. Yeah. I'm not sure if you want to take break. I know I'm the one that came late to the party today. Yeah, I think it's BAMI recorded feature. That's what I was trying to remember. Recorded feature. Yeah, it's recorded feature, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So using search in Microsoft Sentinel, while I was just looking at this, I remember that we did connect some what is it called? I think last week we connected some log sources to through the data connector that we installed, and that through the connectors that we installed and configured. I was expecting that already start having some I should already start having some data in Sentinel, and that's why I came here basically. And if I look at the logs and under Sentinel, I can actually see that I am having device info from Defender. I'm seeing device network info from Defender. I'm seeing email events from Entra, and I'm seeing office activity from Entra, and I'm seeing, I think we install Microsoft Office 365 basically. So, which is a combination of things regarding Entra, SharePoint, Microsoft, SharePoint, Exchange, and all. And you can see the email info and then the office activity as well. And basically, the time range is set to 60 days. You can see basically that these are Exchange admin activity that has happened, except that some of them are not performed by me. Some of them, majority of them are not performed by me. They are system action. I don't even think that I've gone to Exchange recently, but yeah, you can see that they are system action. And if you are interested in maybe a particular user changing something, you can always filter by that particular user, and then you can review maybe their activities. And obviously, if you want to save it, you can save it as a query. Uh, you can save it, you can share it, you can do anything you want to do with it, basically. So that said, yeah, so this is still talking about using job search job in Microsoft Sentinel. If you go over to Microsoft Sentinel and you go under general, you see the search option, and you can always select the table of your interest, and then you can put your search here. If you just have a single maybe IP and IOC or anything that you are interested in that you want to search, you can always put it here and basically begin to run a search on it using the search. A lot of time also you'll notice that you can't keep log infinitely. If your retention says that you keep your last 6 security log, and you archive maybe the another 1 year of log, basically, if you need to search maybe something and you feel like you want to see if it has happened, maybe you search for an IOC, you find the IOC in your environment, and maybe you are keeping live log of 6 months, and you saw it like 5 months ago. There is an activity or an indication that you have seen, and you want to ensure that you can actually see if that incident or that issue has been happening within your environment. You may need to restore log. Obviously, currently we don't have anything to reinstall because we don't have any archive configured. But if you have archived any table based on your retention, you can select the archive, and then you can restore it so that you can also search those archive as well. So using search, basically this is fictitious, saying that if you are a security operation analyst and you work at a company, you discover an IOC and you need to investigate if it has been previously seen in your log, you can restore archive log and run a search job to discover previous instances of the IOC. Once with a search, you can search a large data set, and basically you can search analytics log as well as the basic log. I think we've differentiated also between the basic log and analytics log when we started working with Sentinel. One thing you know about the limitation of the search job, you can only optimize to query only one table at a time. If you look here, for instance, if I select any other table, that first table goes away, just to tell you that I can only search a table at a time. At any time, I can only search one table. you see that search date range is up to 1 year. So when you run a search, it can search up to 1 year, and your search query can run for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, expect it to time out. If you have a search that run almost forever for 1 year, I mean for 1 day, after a day, it will time out. Also notice that your results are limited. Your results cannot contain more than 1 million record in any record set, and you can run only 5 concurrent searches per workspace. If you have within a single workspace, you can only run 5 concurrent searches, and limited to 100 search results tables per workspace, and limited to 100 search job execution per day per workspace. So if you are doing a search, you can only run 100 search job per day per a workspace, and you can only run 100 search results tables per workspace. How do you start a job search? I mean, how do you start a search job? You can go to Azure Portal, go to Microsoft Sentinel, select the appropriate workspace, general, then the search. And obviously, you know that that's not the only way that you can do your search. You can also run your search through Defender for XDR. If you have Defender for XDR connected, obviously you can run your search from here as well, and you can see that it all look almost exactly as what you have in I mean Azure within the Azure. If you are opening Sentinel from within the Azure, and if you are interacting with Sentinel from the Defender XDR, you have the same thing, and you can see obviously the same functionality where you can save search and where you can also restore search if you need to do. You can view search job. If you have run a search and it's running and then you navigate away and need to come back to it, you can always look for it in the save search job, and on the search card you can click on view search results, and then you'll be able to see all of those details. I've also spoken about how to restore from archive. If you have an historical data already saved in archive, you can always restore your archive log data, and then you can always view restored log data as well through the search restoration basically. And if you want to delete restore table, you can go ahead and delete it as well if you need to. And lastly, you can hunt for threats using notebook in Microsoft Sentinel. Okay, so this is more for the data analytics type. I think I should have Jupyter on this. Yeah. Sorry, just trying to see if I have it installed on this system. Okay, so for people who are students of data, for people who are students of data science or data whatever, if you have Jupyter Notebook, I mean, it's usually used by data scientists basically. anybody interested in data, if you want to use Jupyter to do your, if you want to use Jupyter to basically do further analysis, you can always use it if you have, I mean, if you have access to it and you know how to use it as well, just to also enhance some of the work that you are doing. For, yeah. So after developing your hunting hypothesis, you can utilize a Jupyter notebook to integrate machine learning libraries, advanced visualization, and external data to detect malicious activity pattern. After completing this module, you'll be able to explore API libraries for advanced threat hunting in Microsoft Sentinel, and describe notebooks in Microsoft Sentinel, create and use notebooks in Microsoft Sentinel. So one thing that you should notice is the fact that if you Azure Sentinels allow you to use the external tool outside of the Sentinel to actually interact with Sentinel data. Before hunting with a notebook, it's essential for you to understand the foundation of Microsoft Sentinel is a log analytics data store. I think we have consistently mentioned that, which combines high-performing query, dynamic schema, and scale to massive data volume. The Azure portal and all Microsoft Sentinel uses a standard API to access the data store. So the same API is also available for external tools such as Python and PowerShell. And there are two libraries that you can use to simplify API access. I've not personally used or tested these API access, but I've used Jupyter Notebook for some other academic works. So how to hunt for with a notebook. So with Jupyter Notebook, you can create and share documents that contains live code, equation, visualization, and explanation tests. Uses include data cleaning, transformation, numerical simulation, statistical modeling. So basically, you can use notebook to do many things, and being able to connect it actually with Sentinel, allow you to interact with the data, and also to using the functionalities that are available from the notebook for you to be able to create reports and also create meaningful reports and create meaningful. Oh, okay, I don't know the password. Let me bring it here. So create meaningful sorry, 1 minute. I'm trying to see if I can actually show what makes the Jupyter notebook powerful. Okay. Okay. I think there was some assignments that I've done in the past, and okay, I'm not sure. So basically, one of the things I was going to say with Jupyter Notebook, just for the benefit of people who have not used it before. Basically, you sometimes want to explain your analysis, and you want to be able to do that just within a single file without having to go everywhere, and also be able to um uh and also be able to bring the data that you need into it, be able to present it in some formats without the necessity of traveling around, basically. Okay. So if you look, for instance, I'm not sure, I think this is more of an assessment. This particular one is an assessment that has to do with analysis of an honeypot data set. It's a JSON file. And one thing you'll probably see, I have to detecting attack through log file analysis. Well, it's a JSON file. And one of the things that I'm able to use many external libraries that allow me to analyze the data, and also that allow me to present it in some logical format, basically. So I'm not going to go into the details of what this does in details. But one thing you should notice is the fact that I'm able to put in comments. I'm able to put in a comment, and then you can see the data that I'm analyzing step by steps. And in places where I present things in graphical forms, you see also that I could put a note here, basically, that as seen from the above output, that anybody that read this is able to relate to it. So there are instances where you need to do detailed analysis and be able to share reports, and you may be limited by what is available directly from 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 Sentinel, in terms of maybe how you can render things. You can use Notebook, for instance, to also supplement the capabilities, especially when it comes to analysis and presentation, to use that to do what you want to do, and then be able to present it in a in a format that makes sense. So currently what I have here, I think it's more like a situation where you have some zombies. I've forgotten the details, but I just remember this. It's more like you have botnets where you have many compromised system around the world actually targeting and trying to exploit a particular asset. Basically, it was captured, and also in finding the location. For instance, the map here actually help us in a way to pinpoint exactly where the systems that are trying to penetrate are. And we can see that in Africa, we are good guys. We don't participate in something like that. Africa is free. You can see across what's it called? I think this is Asia and South America, and also a few system also coming from the US. So basically you can, yeah. So, and luckily somehow you see that the what's it called, the information you have here on the chart, this is meta. I think it's the, I'm trying to see the library, sorry. Matplots, the PyPilot basically was what was used here, which is a functionality, or it's a module for Python, basically. So you see also that you have some presentation. You can actually present your data in some format that out of the box you won't be able to do if you were limited with, if you are constrained with just doing all of your analysis with Sentinel. So basically, You have some benefits by being able to use solutions like a Jupyter Notebook to interact with your live data, run live code, do some data manipulation, visualization, and also to be able to insert explanatory text basically within your file. So you have several notebooks developed by some of Microsoft security analysts. They are packaged with Microsoft Sentinel. Some of these notebooks are built for specific scenario and can be used as is if you come across that scenario, and you yourself can build notebook yourself and then be able to use this. Other are samples intended to illustrate techniques and features that you can copy and adapt as well for your use. So if you look at this place, and I think if you search for notebooks, you see that not I think currently RSA does not have any notebook. Is it still RSA? Yeah, RSA does not currently have any notebook associated with it. But if you search notebook from here, you basically can see systems that have some form of notebooks assigned to them. And basically, if you are interested in learning how to create notebooks or maybe some other details, you can search Sentinel to actually see the notebooks available, just for you to be able to gain an idea on how to use notebook and then be able to use it for your detection. I think I might create a content on this later if I explore it very well. So how do you create a notebook? To get started with notebook, you can use the Getting Started Guide for Microsoft Sentinel Machine Learning notebook. So in Microsoft Sentinel, under threat management, you get to notebook. Then you need to create an Azure Machine Learning workspace from the menu. So additional costs may be incurred for this as well. And then you can configure your Azure Machine Learning and then create a new ML workspace, basically. So you can start with a template from the notebook, and then you can get started with select a getting started guide for the notebook, and then you can create from templates button and use the default options and save. Then you can launch your notebook. You can launch your notebook. I think I'll just leave you to go and explore more. Sorry, today I said try to do the reading and the testing more, and that's because today is our last session. I think it's one of the parts that I would have loved to try out myself also. Okay, so if we are to follow the guide on creating the notebook, sorry, basically we can go to the threat management and then the notebook. I would have loved to demo this, but I don't want to incur additional cost currently. So if I set up a workspace for Azure Machine Learning, I'll be incurring additional costs. But for as many of you that have maybe you still have credit left, your subscription has not expired, basically you can just try it out following Microsoft's recommendation step by step, and when you're done, it's possible for you to actually export it, and if you need to use it outside of Sentinel as well, you can export it and run it in Jupyter or maybe other similar softwares that allow you to run Python codes. Yeah, I think this will be the end of our class.